So today on the Soundiron podcast, we do not have a guest. It's just me and Craig, and we have a few
I see
things.
you're throwing the horns. I see that.
Yeah,
Getting
I'm
metal
getting
in
ready.
this one.
I'm getting ready for some intense libraries coming out. Hint, hint,
Nice.
wink, wink. I've got some things to talk about. Work-life balance is impossible. Ooh, hot
Oh,
take, spicy.
Yeah, we need to talk about that one because I got too much stuff going on right now.
Buy or borrow music is something that you may not have heard of, and I just signed up for. Jason Graves' studio tour. I got to go hang out with Jason and wanted to talk about that. Bruce Springsteen, rock star. You might have heard of him. We're going to talk about ticket sales and some gear that I am pumped about. So let's dig right in.
Oh, yeah.
The first one is from a blog that I follow, and this guy is kind of a tech entrepreneur, and he wrote a blog post called Work-Life Balance is Impossible. And he says in this blog, the nobler goal of life bucket integration. And he has Philippe Petit wire walking from the World Trade Center in 1974 with the big old pole that he's like walking across the two towers. And this guy says, attempts at work-life balance are doomed before they start. And he said the term balance suggests that there's some invisible scale that you're supposed to have, like life on one side and work on the other. And if you tip the scale, you fall to your death, right? And things get horribly out of whack. And he basically goes on and says that the problem with work-life balance is the term balance itself. And you immediately think of a dichotomy. For two things to be balanceable, they must be at odds with each other. And he says the question isn't how do you balance work and life, but how do you create a healthy relationship among work and the various other important areas of life. You can make your own list, but I rather like this one: physical health, mental health, spirituality, creativity, relationships, family, travel, fun, finances, and work. Framed in a list like this, it's clear that the problem isn't work versus life. Work is just a part of the puzzle you're trying to find the best way to fit together. And so he goes on to say, if a parent says my family is my life, you don't judge them. But if you say my work is my life, we treat it differently. If it feels like work is adversarial to your life, is there some way to change it so it better supports other areas? I found that working outside and thinking through articles on walks both help my work support my physical and mental health. Making friends at work or co-working with friends can help support relationships and fun. Fun activities that support your physical and mental health, creativity, and relationships tend to be more enjoyable over long periods than fun activities that cost you physical and mental health. Time with your family is much more enjoyable if you incorporate fun, work, creativity, and fitness instead of seeing it as taking away from those things. The more buckets you can integrate, or the more puzzle pieces you can put in, the more full the activities in your life will tend to feel. If you can have fun with your community in a creative way that's not hard on your finances, you'll get more long-term enjoyment than watching TV alone in your bedroom. Work is not something to be balanced against everything else. It's one of the many buckets in our life, sometimes the most important one if you're hardwired that way, and something we should figure out how best to integrate with the other areas in a healthy, supportive way. So I don't know if you have any initial thoughts on that, but he's basically reframing it from work-life balance, where you're constantly fighting your life and your work, to saying that each piece is an important part of the puzzle. And so like making sure that that puzzle piece of work fits in nicely is going to be more sustainable.
Yeah. It's funny because it's like when you think of the whole term like work-life balance, it usually feels like you're trying to balance everything against your work, especially for the people who, put a lot of time into their work. And it's like, oh, well, all you do is work all the time. What about everything else? Like, you can't just do that. You're going to go crazy or whatever. But it's like, it's funny. I remember seeing this. I know we've talked about Rob Dyrdek a long time ago. And I follow him on Instagram. He likes to post a little, inspirational stuff here and there. But there's one where he was talking about like the, paraphrasing, but like kind of like the balance of life and how like everything has to kind of be in rhythm, and it's like when it's not, that's when people push really hard, like in different aspects of their life. So it's like if you're going too hard on one thing and then you feel like you need to make up for it, doing something else. I'm I need to go to the gym more. And then you start becoming super focused on that. And then like you almost start to stress yourself out because you're trying to like make up for the things that you're not focusing on anymore.
Yeah.
And it was just like it just needs to be balanced, you gotta have balance. And I was like, that's really interesting because it's like it's very easy to feel like, oh man, like I'm lacking on this because I'm so caught up in doing this other stuff, and then you just start to stress yourself out, and it's like, and you feel out of balance, but it's just a
Right.
matter of like making the time to do, all the different things that you want to do, the things that make you happy.
Yeah, I think a way to see it is like plate spinning or juggling.
Hmm.
And, when you start dropping the balls or the plates start crashing to the floor, you start panicking.
Yeah.
And so, like, if your family relationships or your friend community or whatever, there's like drama or something bad going on, like that starts crashing and it can impact the other puzzle pieces as well.
Hmm. Just live life like Matthew McConaughey.
Ah,
That's how I do it. It's all about balance, you gotta go in there
green
and
light.
and balance it out, man.
Buy my whiskey.
Yeah, buy my whiskey. Watch a commercial of me driving the car.
Buy a Lincoln.
Lincoln Lawyers, that's just a plug for you right there. But yeah, I think any person who is driven in some way and feels like they work a lot, it's definitely one of those things. It's always the struggle, but
Well, and we have composers on here who, when you ask them what their other hobbies are, they're kind of like, other hobbies? Like, I
mhm.
watch content that I make content for, and then
Yeah.
I make content, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting when people who have a big hobby that's like their favorite, let's say like music, you love making music, but then that's your job. It's like, so what do you like to do for fun? It's like everything that they're going to say is just like regular day-to-day stuff. Hang out with my kids and go to
Yeah.
the park. And other people are like, oh, well, so you don't really have any hobbies? Like, well, my job is my hobby, kind of.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, people talk about making work play and it doesn't feel like work. And it's very similar to that. Like when you're in a creative field and you're problem solving and you're doing something that you're fulfilled by, it's not something that drains you and you're exhausted and just like ready to quit at the end of the day, most days.
Yeah, it is definitely an interesting thing, especially when it comes to like doing your own creative stuff, because you're using that sort of creative part of your brain all day. And then after a while, you're just kind of like, unless you're one of those people who are like a Jacob Collier who could just like crank out cool shit all the time. But there is like, a part where you start to be like, I don't really want to work on that anymore. I just kind of want to do something else or just like use a different part of your brain. Or yeah, sometimes it could be a little tough because I've heard, from some composers that they're like, I don't really want to write music today,
Right.
and it's not to say that they don't love it, but they're just like, I just don't want to do that right now.
And that is when you get to do your taxes.
Yeah.
That's a paperwork day. And then you'll be
Yeah.
real excited to do music the next day.
Yeah. Yeah. That's always the thing. You got to do other stuff. It's funny. Like, I feel like the most common answer we've ever heard from people, like, what do you do when you hit a creative block? And there's like, I just go out for a walk.
Big walk energy for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I hear everyone say. But you can't do that right now because it's too damn hot outside. I just walk up and down the stairs just all upset. Like the other day I was telling you I was having a little creative meltdown, and I
A
was just like,
funk.
yeah, I was just like, it's not happening. But then the next day I made it happen. But I definitely, needed to step away.
That's that discipline kicking in.
Yeah. Just like bang your head up against the wall a few times.
So speaking of work-life balance, I don't know if you listen to Dr. Peter Attia, but he runs like a health clinic and does a lot of ultra high net worth, health obsessive people. Like he does consultations, and he also has a podcast called The Drive,
Mm.
and it's just all about longevity, exercise, diet, things like that. One of the things he likes to talk about is something called backcasting, and it's the opposite of forecasting, basically. So with backcasting, you think about your last decade on Earth, so your marginal decade, let's say 70 to 80 or 80 to 90, however old you think you're going to be, think you're going to live to, and then you think about what you want to be able to do in your marginal decade. So, do I want to be able to go up a flight of stairs? Do I want to be able to use the bathroom by myself? Do I want to be able to pick up a great grandkid? Things like that. And then you work backwards from that. So, let's say you're 40 years old and you're in X shape, you're in this amount of health, and your diet looks like this. As your body ages, you're degrading, as we all know. And so the rate of decline is getting a little faster and a little faster as you age. And so if you're backcasting, you can actually kind of track exactly where you should be at age 40, trying to maintain that sort of baseline. So as you age, you can be at 80 years old and be able to do the things on your list.
Kind of like sort of like, not like reverse engineering your life, but kind of like preparing for what you want.
It's exactly, I mean, reverse engineering is a perfect way to say it. Yeah. And humans are notoriously terrible at forecasting. So if we think like, oh, this library is going to come out in 12 months. Well, actually, it took 2 years. And that's forecasting, or like a weather forecast. Not always the best, right? But if you backcast, you can get a much more clear picture of where you should be at this moment in time.
You're definitely going to have a positive outlook on life, because if you're like, I don't know, I'm probably going to live till 50. I'm probably going to die
50.
young. So,
God.
all right, 50 is my cap. All right, so where do I want to be? All right, I definitely want to be able to use the bathroom by myself. That's a given. That's my goal. That's my only goal. I don't want to have to put that on anyone else.
You know, when you're shooting for like really low goals, like keep the bar as low as possible, and then you exceed expectations.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think you're going to make it past 50.
Oh, well, I hope so. Just gotta eat right and take my vitamin pills.
You got to buy a Lincoln and whiskey.
Yeah, you just got to get a Lincoln, get abs like me, man.
So I recently had the chance to go to Jason Graves' studio in North Carolina.
Jealous.
It was really cool. It was really fun. Jason's a super down-to-earth, nice guy who's done a crazy amount of work on video games and TV shows and movies. He's had a really long career. So it was cool seeing his newly finished studio, and he's got clouds on the ceiling, which made me jealous. And I was like, dang, I got to get some clouds.
Like how did you feel coming back home? Because I've had this with some composers, like when I went to Vivek Madala's studio, and he was just like, yeah, like this whole building, I had it built from the ground up, and he has these like crazy acoustic panels, and like everything is so like it dialed into like mathematical ratios, and you just come home and you're just like, I need to step my game up. What am I doing? You know?
Yeah, I would say that I definitely had some gear interest after that, and that will actually get to my next little story. But the dude has everything dialed in to just be a laboratory factory of music making. And I mean, John Williams used to say, if you can get 1 minute of music finished in a day, you're doing good. That is no longer true. Jason can probably do 5 minutes of music in a day finished, and he mixes and masters all his stuff. So it's just like crazy fast.
Yeah, he's kind of like his setup and the way he goes about things reminds me of Brian Tyler. You know how because he likes to like track stuff in, use as many like real instruments as possible, and mix and do all that stuff himself. And like I think that's really cool when you see people that do that. I mean, for some people they just don't have the time, so they'll just send it out to have someone mix, and that's cool because it keeps them flowing. But like he seems like he's definitely one of those guys like to get hands on.
Yeah, he likes to keep everything in-house. And I mean, people also say like control freak, and it has a negative connotation, but it's also has some positives to it. Like if you keep everything under your control until the last second where you ship it off, like it definitely, you have no one to blame but yourself if things go wrong. It's less of a group project.
Yeah, especially if you have a template that's just dialed in. Like I remember in the video he was saying like, yeah, I have this, it goes already to this track, and I've watched probably every YouTube video he has on his channel.
Yeah.
And just like the way he has his template set up with like mixing plugins, especially like with the outboard gear already routed into microphones, like it's already going in. and then it's already pre-mixed probably, and I'm sure he has presets and stuff for certain instruments. And if you do it all the time, like you kind of just know what works. Like it's just a streamlined way of going about it. And it's I think it's one of those things because like I'm definitely nowhere near on the level of that guy, but like just having that interest, like I can relate on that level of just like, because when I first started, I just wanted to be able to track guitars.
Hmm.
And then you start wanting to like mix and do this and like I just want to be able to demo out ideas. And it's not necessarily like the like I'm sure the whole control freak thing. I mean, that's offensive because you're calling someone a freak. But
A
like
freak of nature. It's
yeah,
positive.
yeah, you're a control freak of nature. But yeah, like just being able to, usually it's like you get inspired, like, or you're just like, wow, that's cool. Like I would like to learn how to do that. If you're one of those people that just like to learn stuff, and he
Mhm.
definitely seems like that. He's got like whole bunch of books everywhere, and you definitely have to be a pretty intelligent person to be able to like pull all that stuff off. But yeah, yeah, it's really cool. It's inspiring to see that kind of stuff because it's cool. Like I like that there's people that are like, hey, I want to be able to like do all that.
I think a lot of it is being a tinkerer and being curious, and that's
Exactly.
something that like the most successful people have in spades. Is they're constantly like, wait, tell me about that. Like, I want to know more about that.
Hmm.
And his work life balance was really cool to see as well because he was talking about things power down at 5 or 6 p.m. every day. And the weekends he doesn't work. And he has 20 plus pets and a family that he pays attention to, and he eats lunch at home and everything like that. So he's got that puzzle piece of work really dialed in so
Hmm.
that he can turn it off and not think about it when he's not in the office.
Yeah. Did he say when he usually started work or how many hours a day he usually composes or works on?
I mean, I'm sure it fluctuates, but it's typically like 8 to 12 and then 1 to 5:30 or something like that. So he's getting
Hmm.
around 8 hours, but it depends on deadlines and
Yeah. Then it would just fluctuate depending on what needs to get done.
yeah.
Yeah. That's really cool. Yeah. His studio is awesome, man.
Yeah, so we just posted a full studio tour. It's like 35 minutes long of just gear, just how he uses the gear, how everything's patched. And he was really generous with his time and just like letting us know all the secret sauce there. And then we did a shortened interview for YouTube, and then we did a full interview on the podcast. So you can get just as much Jason Graves content as you could possibly want.
Yeah. That guy, like you said, he's full of gems and, everything from, how he like, started sampling his own instruments to working on VR games, like so much information. Yeah. So definitely, yeah, check out all those. There's a lot of stuff like where he's gone into more detail on his YouTube channel, like with the whole Dead Space stuff. But it's always cool just to like hear, how he started working on stuff. Like it's funny, I was watching some other videos of him working on the Tomb Raider soundtrack, and it's cool how he like built a whole instrument just for that game.
Yeah.
And it kind of became like the sound of the score. And but it's so cool. It's just like that's what we like to do, like some of the libraries like building weird instruments, like the Soundiron and all that stuff. Just like it's cool to see other people sort of having these crazy ideas and making something really cool with it.
Yep, making something special. So I left his studio, and this dude had just sold me so hard on this Novation Peak hardware synthesizer. And I was like, I don't want to buy it because number one, it's kind of expensive. And number two, I just let gear sit and collect dust. So, is there a way for me to rent this synth easily?
Hmm.
And I stumbled upon the website buyitOrborrowmusic.com.
Hmm.
And this is a mom and pop shop that basically has pedals, microphones, and synthesizers that they will ship to you one at a time, almost like a Netflix DVD.
Oh,
And
okay.
it's a subscription service. So I'm paying $30 a month, and they will send me something. And when I'm done with it, I'll send it back to them, and then they'll send me the next thing. And there's certain like fees for larger gear. So I think that's like $40 extra to send
Or like for the shipping and all that.
the peak over. Yeah.
Mhm.
But I tested it out with the Strymon Volante, which is a tape echo pedal, fairly expensive for what it is. It has like a spring reverb in it and all that. I think it's like around $400 new. And I had it on my desk, and I was running ins and outs, and I was using it for Quadrille 3 that I'm working on right now.
Oh.
And it was fun, and I used it for about 2 weeks, and then it collected dust. And I was like, I'm so happy that I didn't buy this and let it sit on my pedal board for weeks and weeks and months without using it. And now I just get to send it back. And I basically rented this pedal for $30.
Oh, wow.
So it's a cool idea. The one downside of it, I would say, is these people are very passionate about calling you on the phone.
Oh, yeah.
So I wanted to get your take. How do you feel about Sweetwater or brands like that giving you sales calls?
I mean, they're usually pretty nice, and it's always like the same sales rep.
Sure.
Sometimes I'll if I happen to pick up, and they're like, "Hey, this is so and so from Sweetwater, and we know you bought that thing, and how's everything going? You like that? I don't like you call them. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I generally don't like just being called randomly,
Right.
unless it's like someone I know. But when it's like, I'm usually not a fan of that. But if it becomes too much, I mean, I feel like whenever they would call, would be like every now and again, maybe like once every year or two or something that I can remember, unless I just like forward the call. But
you're not a big ticket customer.
They're like, you're not buying enough.
Yeah, you're not a whale. We can't really support the phone calls. Well, I think I speak for millennials and Gen Z when I say we don't want to be called. Like if we sign up to an online thing, we don't want our phone number being used. I could be wrong on that, and like some people probably love the personalization of the phone call, but for me, it just like made me almost want to cancel it because I was like, I signed up online. I paid online. I don't want a phone call to like introduce me to the service or anything like that. Like I understand exactly what this is.
Yeah, they should definitely have like an opt out for that.
Right.
Like, are you okay with us randomly calling you and seeing how your day is? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm like, I can't work if I'm on the phone.
You're messing with my work-life balance.
Boom, there it is.
Yeah.
So that is buyOrborrowmusic.com. I really like the idea. And if you want to get a Novation Peak for like $70 and just have it for a couple months, this is the way to do it.
Crazy. What other types of gear do they have?
I mean, they have a lot of stuff, dude. Like they have some vintage mics. They have pretty much all the new hot pedals that you can think of. Like Jason Graves was talking about the Microcosm, which is like a glitchy reverb delay thing that I'm really interested in. He was also talking about the Rooms reverb, which is that black stereo reverb.
Mm-hmm.
They have tons of Strymon stuff. It's pretty much like lots and lots of guitar pedals, lots of synthesizers.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so changing subjects. I also wanted to talk to you about Bruce Springsteen, the one and only American singer, songwriter, and musician. This dude has released 20 studio albums. He was born in 1949, which means he's 72 years old. And the reason I wanted to talk about him is that he's going on a 2023 tour.
Oh, he's coming back.
Worldwide. He never left is the thing. This dude is making rock and roll and has been for the last 50 years, basically. And you want to take a guess at minimum pricing for a ticket?
I'm going to say 500.
It's too high.
All right, all right, 250. That was going to be my first guess.
Perfect.
But I was like, I don't know. This might be ridiculous.
For the back of the arena, you can get a ticket to go see him for $250.
Oh wow!
And this dude is selling out arenas. So if you think about his fan base, they are mostly older, right? And I would say most of them have enough money that is not really an issue. And so this dude is touring for an older audience. He plays like 3-hour shows.
That's crazy.
I love it, man. So in 1973, he released his first 2 albums and then changed his style a little bit, iterated on the genre a little bit with Born to Run in 1975. Mm-hmm. And that was like the breakout album that made him huge. He has sold more than 150 million records worldwide and more than 64 million albums in the United States, making him one of the world's best-selling music artists.
Damn.
He's gotten 20 Grammys, 2 Golden Globes, an Academy, etc., etc. You understand.
The
He
accolades are stacking.
he was inducted into both the Songwriters Hall of Fame and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1999. And he is 23rd on Rolling Stone's list of greatest artists of all time. So he was born in New Jersey, and his dad was a bus driver. His mom was a legal secretary. In 1964, he saw the Beatles' televised appearance on the Ed Sullivan Show, and he bought his first guitar for $19 at the Western Auto Appliance store.
Wow.
What was your first guitar?
It was a Kima.
Ooh.
Kima, like super cheap knockoff. I think it had like 20 frets. I don't even, it didn't even have.
Is it acoustic
20.
or electric?
Electric.
Okay.
Yeah, I got it from a friend with a little practice amp for like $80.
That's awesome.
And that's what I cut my teeth on, learning anything I could.
Basically. Man, when you're first starting, it doesn't matter that it's a piece of junk. Like, it's just fun to play, and you don't know how bad you are.
Yeah, I wish I still had it. That would have been cool, even though it probably would just be sitting in a bag or something somewhere. But I have my first like good guitar, I guess.
Yeah,
I got an Ibanez RG 120 after that, and I felt like that was like the hugest step up. I was like, man, this guitar is amazing. But yeah, that I still have, and yeah, that thing is like needs work. It's like I don't even have the original knobs anymore. I found these other knobs to for the volume.
Right.
The other ones just like fell off, and I found this like just cheapy one that would just like with the little volume numbers on them.
Yep. My first electric guitar was a Fender Squier Bullet. It was like all white, and the intonation on it was so bad, man.
Yeah.
The Guitar Center guy sold me on it, and he was like, yeah, a lot of beginners start with this. And I didn't know what I was doing. And my dad was there with me, and he had even less idea than I did.
He's like, it looks nice. Looks like a good guitar.
It looks good. It's $100.
Like, oh, we're running a sale right now. So, like, I never had a Fender, actually.
You're not missing that much.
He was like, dude, don't worry. The G string will never go out of tune. Ever. Intonations on it's great.
It's great. So the next guitar that this dude got was a $60 guitar. And his mom had to take out a loan to get this. It was a Kent guitar.
Oh, okay.
But we could tell that he was serious about the instrument. And so his mom decided to invest. Then he got signed to Columbia Records in 1972. He had piqued the interest of John Hammond, who had signed Bob Dylan 10 years earlier. So he kind of got a pretty big break with his music at that point, just getting lucky with hopping on Columbia Records. So in 1974, after seeing Springsteen's performance, John Landau is a music critic, and he wrote, I saw rock and roll future, and its name is Bruce Springsteen. And on a night when I needed to feel young, he made me feel like I was hearing music for the very first time. And this critic actually helped to finish the epic new album Born to Run, and then became Springsteen's manager and producer. And this part I wanted to talk to you about. So this album was very labor intensive. It took more than 14 months to record, with 6 months alone spent on developing the song Born to Run. Baby, we were born to run. During this time, Springsteen battled with anger and frustration over the album, saying he heard sounds in his head that he could not explain to the others in the studio. And I know that you've probably had similar concepts, like both with composing by yourself and with working in a collaboration, where you're trying to describe the sound you're looking for, you're trying to like hear in your head, and it's really hard to put into words or even mouth noises. You know?
Yeah, like there's no like onomatopoeia for like some weird fucking sound,
Yeah.
You're just like, it's like this like undulating thing. It was like Space Monster, right? And he's got like these like sounds going on. But it's like that, but it's like reversed.
Right.
It's like, what? I mean, I'd probably be better at describing that now.
Yeah.
But like when you don't know like what that thing is, or like trying to like you heard throat singing or something from a movie, it's like, oh, it sounds like, oh, you're like, what? I don't know what that is. It just sounds like a zombie or something, or like, it's like one of those things. But like when you don't know what that is, or like, certain instruments, like the other day you were asking me about that. Was it the 13 Lives, the Benjamin Wallfish score? and you were asking me about
Oh
the
yeah, the Thai
like,
instrument.
yeah, and it's like interesting because at first I was like, oh, it kind of sounds like an air hu or something, but then it's not. It's like some completely different instrument,
Yeah.
but like different area where it's from too. But
Yeah, it's from Thailand. I like had to go into Thailand traditional instruments, and it's like a saw duo or something like that.
yeah, yeah, but it's like one of those like you even hearing it, you're like, wait, what is that? Because it's like
It's sort of familiar, but it's not quite what you know. Yeah.
yeah,
It's a
yeah.
little on the fringe. So Steve Van Zandt was asked by Springsteen to take charge and instruct the horn players. And you might know Steve Van Zandt from The Sopranos.
Oh yeah, yeah. He was also what's that show on Netflix? And he
Lilyhammer.
yeah. He's like a
Lilyhammer.
mob
Yeah.
guy and he goes to like Norway
Yeah.
or Iceland or something like that.
So this dude was actually a rock star first, and then The Sopranos is his first acting role.
Yeah. Well, he totally looks the part.
Yeah.
It's funny,
It's his
he
face.
in the band it's not as much, but like he just looks like he'd be like Al Pacino's brother or something. He just has that like that old school gangster vibe.
Yeah. So Steve Van Zandt ended up singing each horn player the part with lines, timing, and inflection all perfect. And then the musicians played their parts in studio from his singing to them, and the horns were recorded like that.
Oh wow.
Killer,
That's pretty
right?
cool. He's like, just give me a little bit of the come on, you could do better than that. You're better than that.
You're better than the Gap.
Come on, you could do better.
So, Born to Run releases August 25th, 1975, proves to be a breakthrough album and catapults Springsteen to worldwide fame. Album peaks at number 3 on the Billboard 200, and he had songs like Born to Run, Thunder Road, Jungle Land, and 10th Avenue Freeze Out, which are still played on many classic rock stations.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're talking 50 years ago. And basically, this dude had some ebbs and flows in his career. He calls the 90s his lost decade, where he kind of didn't know what to do and was having trouble making new music and wasn't really enjoying his old music. So he had some ups and downs. He acknowledged that the 1990s were a lost period for him. He said, I didn't do a lot of work. Some people would say I didn't do my best work. And he did get married in 1991, and he had a family. And so his focus kind of moved off of making new music for a while. He released a sprawling 4-disc box set of outtakes called Tracks, which was just like random snippets of songs. But then in 1999, he gets inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and the Singer-Songwriter Hall of Fame. And he decides to get the E Street Band back together. They make an album. In 2002, they release their first studio effort in 18 years with the whole band called The Rising. This album does really well, and everyone's like back on the Springsteen train.
Yeah.
So the reason that I actually started reading about Bruce is that I saw a tour of him from 2013 when he was 63, and the dude was killing it. Just vocals sound great, guitar sounds great, whole band is just totally locked in.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's playing like a huge arena, and he sounds great live. Like, he's the real deal. He was playing Dancing in the Dark, and he brings his mom out on stage and is dancing with his mom, and it's super cute. But that was 9 years ago. And so then I decided, oh, I want to see what he's doing now. So I watched him, and he actually came out on stage with Coldplay.
All right.
And performed a couple songs of his with the lead singer of Coldplay, Chris Martin. And Chris Martin was like, this is one of my musical heroes. I actually have one of his songs tattooed on my arm and all this stuff. So it's cool just seeing people who have had like longevity in music and who are still enjoying themselves at age 72.
Yeah, that's really cool. Probably just running around all over the stage and all pumped.
Yeah, and he looks great too. Like, I don't know if it's the music that's keeping him young or the exercise routine or what.
I don't know what it is. Maybe he did what you were saying. He reverse engineered his life, and he's just like, all right, so when I'm this age, I want to be on stage,
Right?
killing it. What do I need to do
Yeah.
to maintain that?
Tell me about what diet I need in order to
Yeah,
do this. Yeah.
yeah.
100%. So if you want to go see Bruce Springsteen next year, you're going to have to buy a scalper ticket because most of them are all sold out. But you can also watch him live on YouTube. That is all I have on Bruce Springsteen. So now we can move to the recommendation section. My first potential recommendation that I'm still working on is buyerborrowmusic.com. But my second one is this mouse. This is the MX Vertical from
Oh,
Logitech.
wow.
And you hold it like this, like a handshake.
Interesting.
So I actually bought this for my wife because she was having some wrist problems with her tiny little mouse. And this mouse is a little bit too big for her hands. So we bought her the smaller version. But I'm trying it out and I'm thinking about switching, just having this one to switch to if I ever have like wrist pain or any issues. But yeah, you hold it like a handshake. And it's supposed to be the most ergonomic way to hold a mouse. And you're supposed to be no wrist pain or carpal tunnel issues ever.
Interesting. Yeah, I've never seen that before.
Now you have.
Yeah, because I mean, like with this, using a mouse, you have to like adjust everything. Like I try to like adjust the height of this.
Yeah.
This is actually even a little bit lower than it should. It should probably be like here, but there's always that motion. So that makes sense. That like basically just if you any way you can keep your arms straight and not have any sort of like if your hand is doing this or this, like it's gonna bite you in the end.
Yeah, and that's why laptops are so bad because you have these like T-Rex arms going when you're typing or when you're on the trackpad. There's just no blood flow going into your hands and you're going to end up with carpal tunnel.
Yeah. Like I was messing around with this cuz it's a standing desk, but it's like a manual one, so I got to like lift it, and with all the stuff on here, it gets a little too. So, yeah, but I was having some issues because the desk wasn't tall enough. So my hands would be kind of like that, and like I started getting really bad hand pains, so I just ended up moving it down. So yeah, like that's pretty cool. And you said it's Logitech?
Yep. Vertical. So yeah, if I use it, I'll let you know how it goes. You have any recommendations for this week? Any TV shows, movies, podcasts, gear, software?
A show that's actually really cool that a friend of ours told us about. It's a show called Primal. I think it's on.
I watched the first episode of it.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's a completely different type of show because there's not really a lot of dialogue, if any.
Yeah.
It's just music is Tyler Bates and Joanne Higginbottom. And, he used to play guitar for Marilyn Manson. He's another rock band guy turned composer. And yeah, it's a really cool show. I like how it has that kind of like the type of animation that I sort of grew up with.
Right.
So I think that's pretty cool. And yeah, it's just really good.
It's made by Gendy Tartakovsky, who is the creator of Dexter's Laboratory and Samurai Jack and Star Wars Clone Wars. And then, yeah, Primal. So it's on HBO Max is where I was watching it. But it has very little, or like almost no dialogue at all. So it's telling you a story completely with visuals and sound effects.
Yeah.
And it's about a primal man and dinosaur teaming up and in prehistoric times. It's really cool. It's like the coloring and animation of it is really nice, and the music and sound effects obviously have to carry a lot of weight because there's no script.
Yeah, like there's like, I mean, if you're barely on the first episode, there's another episode that has a little bit more, but yeah, it's very like all telling story through just like all the different action and or the different things that you're seeing, and if they can engage you without really having to talk a lot, like that is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's
and
very
and
impressive.
it's a really unique concept especially for a cartoon.
Yeah.
So I was watching that this weekend actually.
Yeah, and they're short episodes too. They're like 20 minutes.
Yeah, I would recommend that. Definitely watch that.
Primal.
I don't really watch a lot of like cartoon stuff these days, but I was just like, oh wow, yeah, it caught my attention.
It's definitely well done, and I would say it's a masterclass on using sound, just because it's like right up front in your face.
Mm-hmm.
Killer, dude. Well, we will end it there. We have more guests incoming over the next few weeks on the podcast, so make sure to subscribe and ding the cute little bell and leave us a 5-star review and all that stuff, and we will catch you soon.
Yeah. Let us know how much you don't like our voices.
Tell us about how much you hate Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah. Or if you like Bruce Springsteen. What's your favorite?
I actually really like Bruce Springsteen. Yeah. Some people in my peer group judge that decision, but I enjoy it.
Then you just know who not to be friends with. That's it.
We don't have to agree on music. You don't like Attack Attack. I used to like Attack Attack. It's okay.
I'll still be your friend. Just don't listen to Attack Attack while I'm in the car. That's it. That's all I ask.
Yeah, don't blast it on the shared CD player, okay?
Yeah, please. That's all I ask.
All right, Craig. I will catch you next week, my man.
Alrighty.
All right. Peace.
Peace out.